You know that feeling, right? When you're onto something big, maybe a fantastic idea, but it just sort of
Yeah,
stalls.
like it's missing something.
Exactly. Missing that crucial spark to really ignite. That's actually what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We've got this really compelling chapter that gets right to the heart of it, understanding and, well, wielding the essential force needed to turn those ideas and really your desires into reality.
Especially when it comes to wealth, I gather.
Precisely. Especially wealth. This is from a broader study on success, and the chapter itself is powerfully titled Power of the Mastermind.
Ah, okay, mastermind. And what's really interesting here, I think, is that the author isn't talking about power like, dominance or just authority.
Right. Not the usual definition.
No. So our goal, our mission for this deep dive,
Yeah.
is to really pull out the core understanding of how to acquire power and then how to apply it effectively.
As this chapter presents it, anyway.
Yes, as presented here,
Yeah,
specifically for, our listeners who are aiming for financial success.
absolutely. So, let's get straight into it. The author starts by defining power, and it might actually surprise some people.
How so?
They define it as organized and intelligently directed knowledge.
Okay, organized and intelligently directed knowledge. Let's unpack that.
Yeah, it's not just about knowing stuff, not just having facts piled up.
Exactly. Like, think about it. You could have a huge library, tons of information, but if you can't find what you need, or more importantly, if you don't know how to use that knowledge strategically for a specific goal,
Hmm.
well, it's not really powerful, is it?
Makes sense.
So for the listener, this really underlines that just consuming information isn't the end game. It's about actively organizing what you learn and then directing it smartly towards those financial goals you have.
And then they offer a second definition, which feels even more maybe action-oriented.
Okay.
Power is organized effort, sufficient to enable an individual to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent.
Ah, okay. Organized effort. That's the key phrase there, isn't it?
Right. I think so. It connects that strong desire, that burning feeling you might have, and channels it through coordinated action.
To create actual tangible wealth.
Yes.
That element of organized effort.
Yeah.
It's just so crucial. It really highlights that, big financial wins, they usually aren't a solo act.
Right. It takes more than just you.
It involves focusing your own efforts, absolutely, but also often coordinating with other people in a really purposeful way.
Sure.
And like the author points out, this power isn't just about getting the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
It's also vital for keeping it, for growing it over time.
Sustaining it. Okay. So if power comes from this organized knowledge, where do we get the raw ingredients, the knowledge itself?
Good question. The author lays out three main sources.
Okay, 3. What are they?
First one is infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
Sounds grand.
It does. And they mention it's a realm you can potentially tap into through creative imagination, which is a whole fascinating process they apparently explore more elsewhere in their work.
Right, so maybe a topic for another time, but connecting it to now.
Well, think about maybe those aha moments, when a truly original idea just seems to land in your head almost from nowhere.
Yeah, happens sometimes.
The author kind of positions infinite intelligence as the potential source for those kinds of breakthroughs. It's like a universal wellspring of wisdom, maybe. This chapter flags it, but doesn't detail the how.
Got it. Okay, source number 2.
That's accumulated experience. This is probably the one we're all most familiar with.
Like libraries, schools.
Exactly. The huge storehouse of human knowledge. Everything learned, recorded, organized libraries, universities, databases, books, you name it. When you go learn something new, odds are you're tapping into this accumulated experience.
Makes sense. It's the sum of what we as humans already know.
Precisely. And what's important to remember there is that it is based on past discoveries. It's invaluable, sure, but it might not always have the answers for totally new problems or future challenges,
Right, it's historical in a way.
Right.
Okay, and the third source.
The third is experiment and research.
Ah, so creating new knowledge.
Exactly. This is where we actively generate new insights. Think science, R&D, innovation. It often involves that creative imagination element again, too. That spark leading to new questions, new tests, new discoveries.
Like breakthroughs in tech or medicine.
Perfect examples. They often come from this source. It really emphasizes that knowledge isn't this static thing. It's constantly growing, evolving through asking questions and testing things out.
So to really build power, you need to be drawing from the past, but also actively looking for new understanding.
You got it. Both learning and discovering.
Now, Here's where the author makes a really critical point, I think. Trying to gather all this diverse knowledge yourself
Uh-huh.
and then turn it into big, meaningful action all on your own. That's incredibly difficult, maybe impossible at scale.
Right. It's just too much for one person.
And that leads us right into the main event of this chapter, the concept of the mastermind.
Okay, the mastermind. This really tackles that question. How do you amplify your own abilities to do something truly significant?
Yeah.
And the author introduces the mastermind as the fundamental principle for that. The definition given is coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose.
Coordination, harmony, definite purpose, those seem key.
Absolutely. And they are very clear about how vital this is. They state pretty bluntly, no individual may have great power without availing himself of the mastermind.
Wow, okay. So no hedging there.
Not at all. So if you, the listener, are serious about hitting major goals, especially financial ones, this idea of leveraging collaborative power isn't just nice to have.
It's essential.
It's essential, according to this.
So how does this mastermind actually work? What are its characteristics?
Well, the author breaks it down into two main aspects, which is quite helpful. First, there's what they call its economic nature.
Economic nature. Sounds practical.
It is. Think about it. When you surround yourself with the right people, advisors, mentors, partners, people who are cooperative and supportive, you suddenly gain access to way more knowledge, skills, perspectives, connections.
Than you have on your own.
Exactly. This automatically creates economic advantages. And this kind of strategic alliance, this way of working, has been the foundation of so many great fortunes throughout history. Understanding this, the author stresses, can directly shape your own financial path.
So it's really about building that network, that team. People whose strengths balance yours, who see things you miss, all pulling together towards that shared goal.
You nailed it. That's the economic side.
Yeah.
Then there's the second aspect, the psychic phase.
Psychic phase. Okay, that sounds a bit more out there.
It is more abstract, yeah. It touches on maybe spiritual forces or mental energy. The author put forward this idea. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind.
A third mind. Invisible. Okay. How do they explain that?
Well, they suggest the universe is made of energy and matter, right?
Yeah.
And our minds, they propose, are a form of energy.
Okay.
So when two or more minds get together, coordinate, and are in harmony, that harmony part is crucial, working towards a specific goal, their mental energies interact. They create this synergy. Something greater than the sum of its parts emerges, almost like a new collective intelligence.
Interesting. Like an orchestra, each instrument is separate, but together in harmony.
That's a great analogy. The music they create together is way richer, more complex than just adding up the individual sounds. Same idea here. Coordinated minds, working in sync, can generate a combined mental energy, a level of insight that none of them could reach alone.
Okay, I can grasp that concept. Now, the author mentions Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate.
Yes, they credit Carnegie with bringing the mastermind principle, or at least its economic power, to their attention.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, Carnegie shared his approach, and it was a huge turning point for the author. It basically shaped their whole life's work, focused on the science of success.
Wow. And Carnegie used this himself.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
on a massive scale. The example given is his own mastermind group, about 50 people, all focused on the very definite purpose of making and selling steel.
50 people, all coordinated.
That's the claim. And Carnegie apparently attributed his entire fortune, his incredible success, directly to the power generated by this coordinated group effort.
That's a powerful testimonial.
It really is. And it makes you think, doesn't it? The author encourages us, the readers, you, the listener, to look at successful people, people who've achieved big things in any field.
And see if they use this.
Yeah, consciously or maybe even unconsciously. See if you can spot the mastermind principle at play. Because the author makes another really strong claim here.
Which is?
Great power can be accumulated through no other principle.
Again, very definitive. No other way to get great power.
According to this text, yes. To make this idea of connected minds even clearer, they use another analogy.
Okay.
Think of the human brain like an electric battery.
Like a battery. How so?
It has the capacity, they suggest, to attract and absorb energy from what they term the ether, this kind of universal energy field around us.
Wait, stay with me. Brain as a battery absorbing energy.
Right. And just like if you connect a whole bunch of electric batteries together, you get way more power than just one battery alone.
Sure, series connection, yeah.
Well, same idea with brains. A group of brains, coordinated, working together in harmony, focused on one goal. They generate significantly more thought energy than just one single brain working in isolation.
Yeah, I see the parallel. So surrounding yourself with smart, capable people isn't just about diverse ideas.
It's about actually amplifying the total mental power available to everyone in the group.
That's a fascinating way to put it.
It really highlights that this mastermind thing isn't just some abstract theory. It's presented as a practical method to essentially multiply your own brain power.
And that collective energy feeds back to each person.
Yes, exactly. When minds align harmoniously, that boosted energy becomes available to each individual member, kind of supercharging their own efforts too.
Okay, so this sounds powerful in theory. Are there more concrete examples besides Carnegie's 50-person group?
Yes, absolutely. To really illustrate this, the author uses Henry Ford as a prime example,
Ford, okay, the car guy.
the car guy. And they point out he started with some serious disadvantages, right? Poverty, not much formal education, sometimes described as, well, ignorant in certain areas.
Yeah, that's often part of his story.
Yet somehow, in a pretty short time frame, he overcomes all that and becomes this hugely wealthy, incredibly influential leader.
So how did the mastermind play into that?
Well, what's really revealing, according to the author, is the timing. Ford's biggest leaps forward, his most rapid progress, happened when he became close friends and associates with some real intellectual heavyweights of his day.
Like who?
Thomas Edison,
Wow, Edison.
Harvey Firestone, the tire guy,
Yeah.
John Burroughs, the naturalist, Luther Burbank, the botanist,
Ooh,
a really diverse, brilliant group.
that is quite a circle.
And the author argues this wasn't just, good networking or coincidence. It was the direct result of the power generated by these intellectual alliances, these friendships.
So his association created the power.
That's the idea. And there's this really potent quote about it. Men take on the nature and the habits and the power of thought of those with whom they associate in a spirit of sympathy and harmony.
Okay, that's saying you absorb traits from your close associates.
More than just traits. The author suggests Ford, by being in this circle, in harmony with these great minds, essentially absorbed their vibrations of thought. He tapped into their collective intelligence, their experience, their knowledge, maybe even that spiritual force they talk about.
So he added their strengths to his own, effectively.
Yes, he was actively, perhaps intuitively, applying the mastermind principle.
That really hammers home how important your close circle is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just casual contacts. It's about deliberately building deep, harmonious relationships with people whose minds you respect, people who align with or complement your own goals.
Okay. Any other examples given? Maybe outside of industry.
Yes, they broaden the scope significantly with the example of Mahatma Gandhi.
Gandhi, interesting. How does he fit the mastermind model?
Well, some might just see him as a spiritual leader, right? But the author makes the case that he wielded immense power. Arguably, they say, he was the most powerful man of his era.
How? Not through money or military.
No, but through the sheer number of his followers. Millions, and their unwavering faith in coordinated action towards a single goal, independence.
Ah, so the coordination of millions of minds.
Exactly. Gandhi achieved this incredible influence through what the author sees as the ultimate large-scale application of the mastermind principle. He managed to coordinate the thoughts, the minds, and the actions of over 200 million people,
200 million.
united in a spirit of harmony focused on that definite purpose.
That is staggering. The author calls it a miracle, inducing that level of voluntary cooperation over such a long time.
It really was, and it makes you realize achieving that kind of harmony, even within, say, a small company or team, is incredibly difficult, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Getting just a dozen people fully aligned and harmonious is a challenge.
So that contrast really highlights the immense, almost untapped potential that lies in large-scale harmonious coordination towards a shared goal.
Okay. So we've seen the mastermind in industry, in social movements. Where does this power ultimately come from? Let's circle back to those sources.
Right. The author reminds us that infinite intelligence was listed as the ultimate source.
The pinnacle. Yeah.
And here's the connection they make. When two or more people coordinate harmoniously towards a clear goal, they essentially create a channel, a way to tap directly into that universal source, infinite intelligence.
So the mastermind group itself becomes a conduit.
That's the implication.
Hmm.
It positions the group to absorb power directly from this highest source. They suggest that great leaders, geniuses throughout history, they often intuitively knew how to do this.
And they make a point about reliability here, too, Jungle.
Yes, a significant one. Our five senses, they can
Them.
fool us. Accumulated experience can be outdated. Even research can have flaws. But infinite intelligence.
Is presented as infallible, the ultimate truth source.
Exactly. Now, they do mention again that the specific techniques for consciously accessing this source are coming later in the work.
Building suspense.
Right. Keeps you reading. But they also reiterate, look, this isn't meant to be a religious course. The main focus here stays practical. How to use these principles to get what you desire, specifically money in this context.
Got it. Practical application for wealth.
Then the author shifts gears a bit, introducing another powerful metaphor.
Okay.
They compare money to a shy maiden.
A shy maiden. Serious.
Seriously. Who needs to be wooed, persuaded, won over?
How do you woo money?
With the same kind of approach a really determined lover would use. That means having that strong desire, that unwavering faith you can win it, persistent effort, and crucially, a definite plan of action.
Okay, so desire, faith, persistence, plan, action. The usual suspects, but framed differently.
Exactly. And this leads into another big concept, this idea of a great, unseen stream of power.
A stream of power, like a river.
Kind of. Imagine a river with two currents flowing side by side. One current flows towards wealth, abundance, prosperity.
Okay.
And it carries people upward who cultivate positive thoughts and emotions, faith, love, enthusiasm, desire.
And the other current?
That one flows down towards poverty, failure, lack, and it pulls down people dominated by negative emotions, fear, doubt, greed, jealousy.
So your thoughts and feelings literally place you in one current or the other.
That's the core idea. It's a really vital concept for anyone aiming for financial success.
Yeah.
Your dominant mental state acts like the rudder steering your boat in this stream.
And understanding this gives you control.
It gives you potential control. It gives you an oar, as the author puts it, a tool. By consciously choosing positive, wealth-oriented thoughts and applying the principles we've discussed, you could potentially steer yourself out of the negative current and into the positive one.
But it requires conscious effort, application.
Absolutely. Not just reading about it, you have to use the oar. They even mentioned the 1929 Wall Street crash as an example.
How so?
As a time when millions were suddenly swept from the positive side over to the negative, poverty-bound side, and the struggle to get back was immense.
Wow.
So the author positions these teachings, this book, as a potential guide, that oar, to help people navigate back towards the wealth-generating current.
Okay. And there's a contrast drawn between poverty and riches, too, right?
Yes, a very stark one near the end of the chapter. Poverty, they say, is bold, ruthless. It doesn't need help or a plan. It just takes over if you let it.
And riches.
Riches are described as shy, timid. They need to be attracted, coaxed, wooed, remember.
Right, the shy maiden.
They have to be attracted through definite plans, backed by that burning desire we keep mentioning.
Which leads to that final, really powerful statement in the main body.
Yeah, it's a punchline almost.
Yeah,
Anybody can wish for riches, and most people do.
true enough.
But only a few know that a definite plan, plus a burning desire for wealth, are the only dependable means of accumulating wealth.
Plan plus desire, the dependable means. Okay.
So let's try and wrap up the key takeaways from this whole chapter then. Power, for achieving wealth anyway, is basically organized knowledge and organized effort.
Not just knowing, but knowing how to use what you know and doing it strategically, often with others.
Exactly. And that's where the mastermind principle comes in as just fundamental, by deliberately coordinating your knowledge, your efforts with other people.
In harmony.
Yes, in harmony towards a specific goal. You unlock way more power, economic power, even that psychic power, amplifying what you can do alone.
So surrounding yourself with the right minds isn't just helpful.
It's essential for achieving great power, according to this work.
So for you, the listener, maybe take a moment. Think about where you get your knowledge. But maybe more importantly, who are you collaborating with? Really collaborating.
Are you consciously building and using a mastermind in your own life for your specific goals?
And thinking about that stream of life idea, the currents of thought, what oar are you actually using right now? What conscious choice will you make to navigate towards where you want to go?
We've definitely covered the ground in this chapter now. from defining power, exploring its sources,
Right through the mastermind principle, its economic and psychic sides, the examples like Carnegie, Ford, Gandhi.
the connection to infinite intelligence, and that stream of life metaphor, concluding with the necessity of plans and desire.
Yeah, we've really unpacked it all. We trust this deep dive gave you a solid, actionable grasp of these core ideas.
Maybe it sparked some thoughts, perhaps about potential mastermind partners for you, or areas where you could apply your knowledge in a more organized, directed way.
Definitely food for thought. We'll be exploring related concepts like that creative imagination and maybe the practical steps for actually forming a mastermind group in future deep dives. So make sure to join us for those.